Hello again and good day to all friends. This is Mojtaba Rasti from the Thales team, and today is November 8th, 2025. I'm here with a Bitcoin analysis using the Thales Market Screener tool. Please note that these analyses are for educational and informational purposes only, and if you use them to take positions in the market, the responsibility for any profit or loss is entirely your own. Well, as we expected, we saw an upward move up to the upper zone. Once again, we touched 104 and 100 and got rejected, then it turned back down. If we want to look at the chart and examine everything we see, regardless of whether it's bullish or bearish, well, here we basically have a double bottom forming. Now, this second bottom here is a bit higher than the first one, but the difference is very small. Roughly speaking, we can say that overall, a double bottom pattern seems to have formed, and actually, the situation. The RSI is also turning upward, meaning the divergence we were seeing here is now being corrected, it's being compensated for, and in fact, the price is aligning with the RSI situation. So, this gives a bullish outlook. But on the daily chart, the point is that, as I mentioned to you before, we talked about a triangle forming here, and now that's happening. But this triangle is starting to take the shape of a symmetrical triangle. You see, it's becoming a symmetrical triangle, and such a pattern can be a continuation pattern. Symmetrical triangles are usually continuation patterns, meaning the move is likely to continue downward, so it gives a bit of a bearish outlook in this direction. And this purple trend line, which is the support line for my bullish view, is still holding for now. And if you look at the weekly chart again, here for now. For now, the point we discussed is that the 50-week moving average, which has always been a good support before. For now, it has somewhat shown its support role. It's important to see how this week's candle closes, above this moving average or below it. And next week's candle is also important, meaning if this candle closes above the moving average, next week's candle should confirm and solidify it, like here and here, so that we can say with more confidence that the price has managed to hold on this moving average. I really think we're in a very special situation right now. As I mentioned last time, if you look at the crypto market, you'll see that there are both very serious bearish analyses and very serious bullish analyses. We're truly at a turning point. Another thing we can look at, if we want to build scenarios, if we want a scenario plan, friends, let's consider a structure like this. Is it possible for something like this to happen? Look. This comes down to here. For example, I'm saying, of course, maybe such a head and shoulders pattern won't form this strongly, meaning, for us to come back down to 106 from here again might not seem very reasonable. But could a structure like this, where we drop as much as we did here, possibly form down to around 50,000, for example? The end of our final top was here, right? The end of the bull market, actually. Well, this could be another scenario, meaning, it's a possibility we can consider and say that such a structure might form and we could consider the market as finished. But what's clear is that if we stay below that moving average, below this 50-week moving average, for a long time, it seems like we could say the bull market story has lost its momentum. But for now, we're still on it. For now, this trend line is important. Look, 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. This important trend line has provided support. So for now, we can stand by the idea that we have a chance to move upward. And besides the things I mentioned, there are other signs in the market as well, but going through all of them would take too much time and is beyond my capacity. So, let's move on to the market screener and see what we have there. For now, on the 4-hour chart, we're standing on this almost double bottom that's formed, and we're expecting a bullish move to break 104,500 and then attack around 108,700. Let's see what we have here in terms of trades. From the start of today up to this hour, for the expiration date. Tomorrow, November 9th. Sunday is a holiday, so we do not have a very high trading volume. It is not bad, but it is 1,849 Bitcoin, and what it is showing us is completely bearish. Let me show you, though, this drop has a point. Look, below 102,200 is in profit. But this drop here has hit a support. Up to here, up to 102,400, the slope is pretty good, delta is downward. Here, it has hit a bottom. From 102,200 to 100,300, we have a bottom, puts have been sold. Right where the price is, this is the same drop that is happening, and if it hits the 100,300 bottom here, if 100,300 or 100,400 breaks, you will see that some puts have been bought, but still, look at the slope of this delta. The slope of this delta means that the intensity of the drop for the puts bought here is not as strong as it was before. So, from 102,200 to 100,300 or 100,200, we can expect some support. Another point, as we move the slider forward, the downward curve immediately flattens out, and almost until the end, for tomorrow, we are in a range, and we are at the bottom of the range right now. We have even broken the bottom. The bottom of this range is 101,700, and right now we are at about 101,600. The top of the range is 103,400. So, until tomorrow, we can expect a range between about 100,100 to 104,000. We will be ranging here until tomorrow, and that is what it is showing. Look, in the process database, from the very beginning, it shows a range, and again, in the process data, we are at the bottom of the range. The top of our range is 103,600 or 104,000. So, we can expect this range until tomorrow. That drop we saw at the start of the raw curve seems to be this, and it is happening, and its end could probably be around 100,400 or 100,300. Okay, let us go to draw the zones. As you can see, the upper consensus point is at 103,900, the lower consensus is at 101,700. The lower consensus is in profit, forming a consensus zone, while above, there is not a consensus zone. The point is, the price is here at this dashed line, meaning we have seen the lower consensus point and even gone below it. So, it seems we have pretty much hit our lower target. These very sharp and intense breaks you see in the curve are because of the low trading volume, and most likely, that is what is happening here. Look, the trading volume is very low, 1,000 Bitcoin, 800 Bitcoin. The curve is broken at key points. So, it seems we have reached our lower target and can move toward the upper target, 103,900. Let us enter the points and continue. Well, as you can see, there is a complete rotation at the bottom, especially within the red band. You can see it is turning completely. In the morning, actually around noon when I checked this band, we were lower, meaning both our ceiling and our floor have moved higher compared to noon. So, this expected downward move seems to have already happened and been realized. the zones have also gotten much closer together, so you can see right here how close these bands have become. The range of fluctuation has decreased significantly, and the reason is because today and tomorrow are holidays, the range of fluctuation has really decreased. Let's update the zones and continue. As you can see, the zones have become extremely compressed together. You can see the range of fluctuation has become very small. The lower zone, where the price is currently at, is where we expect it to stop around this area, so that this downward trend will stop. The lower zone is roughly from 101,500 to 101,900. The upper zone is roughly from 103,400 to 104,300, and the middle zone is from 102,500 to 103,000. We can now say that the move toward the lower zone has been realized. The downward movement has happened, as we saw. That was the zone where the agreement on profit was made, and the zone it created is the area of agreement between buyers and sellers. So, we can expect a move toward the broader upper zone, a move toward around 103,800 to 104,000. We might see fluctuations like this until tomorrow. Now, let's take a look at delta and gamma, delta and gamma. Let's do a quick refresh. This is the delta and gamma situation when the implied volatility curve is downward sloping. If I move this forward, as I said, the whole story changes. Our curve becomes more volatile. It looks something like this. But if we stick with the original shape, where we have a major gamma, the main gamma is actually at 103,800. Given where the price is right now, this was probably the target of put buyers, and it has been achieved. If we've now reached the end, as you can see, a large part of this gamma likely comes from put buying, and part of it is from call buying. So here, our long gamma is at 103,600, and the short gamma for the market maker is at 103,600. You can see there was a reaction at this level. We also have two small gammas, but their values aren't really significant, one at 101,400 and the other at 107,200, more or less. So, we'll just stick to these main gamma levels we have. Alright, for now the price is coming down and has completely passed through the lower zone. So, let's go take a look at the upcoming expirations to see how things are changing. If I add the 10th, you can see that the downward trend in trading volume intensifies. But again, look, we're here. So once more, this 100,700, 100,500 area is important because it can hold the price. That means from where we are now up to 100,500, puts have been sold, and up to 103,000, calls have been sold. So, we're in a volatile zone. If you were looking at the 10th, yes, November 10th. If I remove tomorrow, the downward pattern becomes. It becomes clearer, with 580 Bitcoin just for the 10th, no longer including the 9th in the calculations. This is just for the 10th. You can see that the decline starts, and it goes down to 98, again, 98 to 99,000 comes up in our analysis. Of course, as I mentioned, the volume is low, just 586 Bitcoin in about 500 contracts. This shows that most of them are 1 Bitcoin or half Bitcoin contracts. These are small positions. If I include the 11th, it's 600 Bitcoin. Look, the 11th alone is 600 Bitcoin in favor of an upward move. The trades that have come in today for November 11th are mostly on the upside. You can also see that from the delta. The upward side is more dominant, aiming for 106 to 107. If we consider November 12th, the volume is very low, just 53, which isn't even worth analyzing. And for November 14th, starting from today, the outlook is volatile. You can see that the floor of this volatility is 98 and the ceiling is 107. Again, you can see here for November 14th, what's clear is the intensity. A positive delta along with a price decrease indicates the intensity of put selling. There have been a lot of puts sold. Again, just like in previous analyses, I want to emphasize this point. When these puts are sold, generally in options, selling puts is done with the aim of identifying a desirable bottom for entering the market. So, this put selling and the bottoms we've seen can mostly be interpreted as people still looking for a suitable bottom to enter. That's exactly my perspective. Of course, others might have different interpretations. This is for November 14th, but considering the technicals, we can still focus on this matter. This double bottom pattern, the exaggeration, and the subsequent rise and consolidation, actually, this recent dip also makes sense. In the double bottom pattern, the typical scenario is that you have the first bottom, then the second bottom, and when you reach the neckline area, there's usually a drop, and then an attack on this level, on the neckline, to break it. The move upward is usually equal to the height of the double bottom, which in this case is around 107. So for now, we're sticking with this scenario. Now, let's look at the detailed trades. From 1,849 Bitcoin for tomorrow, 1,008 Bitcoin were bought, 490 Bitcoin in calls, 518 Bitcoin in puts. The difference is about 20 Bitcoin, which isn't much, but the majority is in put buying. Where were these puts targeting? The puts are profitable below 102,800, so where are we now? Right now, we're at 101,800, that is, 600. So, if we consider delta, we can go down to as low as 100,500, even down to 100,000. After that, you'll see the delta's slope changes. But up to this point, the puts have been realized, so now it's the call's turn. We can say it's the call's turn. The calls are looking at 103,800 and above, meaning an attack on this upper zone and selling. Put selling, option contracts. We have 840 Bitcoin call sales, 486 put sales, and our movement in the big hourly candle was downward, so the put sellers have been realized, and now we've reached their target. Look, the average put was sold at 101,900. They didn't want it below 101,900. The current price is 101,600, so those have also been realized. Now, we're heading toward the ceiling that the call sellers are watching, which is at 102,903, around 103. Here is the ceiling of this middle zone of ours. Alright, so this is also pretty much clear now, at least to some extent, what it looks like. Let's move on to the process database. Let's see, for transactions of 10 Bitcoins and above, there are 25, for transactions of 15 Bitcoins, there are 5, and for 12 Bitcoins, there are 19. So, we don't have any really big transactions. You can see there aren't any really large transactions. The biggest one is a 30 Bitcoin long put, which is interesting because it was entered today at 10:20 in the morning. And A 23 and a 19 Bitcoin long call at 107,000 offset each other. They're opposing views, and the volumes are close too. It's probably a block trade strategy. You see? Yes, this one too. Short straddle here, and this one is also a short straddle. And probably this one too is a short straddle. Yes, we have 75 Bitcoin short straddles, and right now we're at the bottom of this short straddle. Actually, I think I might have made a bit of a mistake with the last one. Oh, these are strangles. These two, both over 50 Bitcoin, are short strangles. Profit is between 102 and 103. The floor is 101,600, so if it drops below that, it's a loss. The ceiling is 103,300, so the maximum range is from 101,600 to 103,300. Right now, it's at 101,570, so from 101,600 up to 103,300, it's in the upper zone, and this is also the lower strategy. This lower strategy is also a short straddle. With this short straddle, we've already passed the point of maximum profit at 102,000. We've moved downward. If we take this trade at the 101 support in May era, which is a 25 Bitcoin position, we can go down as far as 101,300. The ceiling is 102,700, and the next ceiling is 103,000. So ultimately, we'll have volatility between where we are now and these ceilings. Between these two levels, we'll likely see some volatility tomorrow. Most likely, we'll start moving upward. Now, look at this 4-hour candle. If it closes as a doji like this, and there's about an hour and a half left, that itself could be a sign, just like here. See, after this candle, we had a doji and the trend reversed. We can expect that if we get a doji here, it could signal the end of this short downtrend, and we might attack towards 103,000 or 105,000, for example. So that's that. Now, let's look at the liquidation map. In the 24-hour liquidation map, there's significant liquidity accumulated at 99,700 and 100,000. This is notable and favors a move toward 100,000. So, up to this point, it means we might come back down and see these lower levels again. This supports that scenario. Look at the liquidity at 105,000. See the accumulation at 105,000. Let's check the 48-hour chart to see how it looks. As you can see, there's a liquidity cluster near 100,000 and another at 105,000. Down to 100,000, we see layers of liquidity. Above, liquidity is empty. Below, it's present. Based on the liquidity map, we could go lower. Let's look at the order book. Again, look here, the upper side is getting more prominent, but we still have liquidity at 99,800. The liquidity heat map draws more attention to this level, showing that once again, we see 99,800 and 100,000 in the price ranges. But considering all the points we've mentioned, in my opinion, on these systems, because if we take everything into account, for the short term, that too. For tomorrow, considering that tomorrow is a holiday and we don't expect a lot of volatility, I think it will look more like this. We've come up from here to about this point, and then again, a move toward the upper zone, an attack on 103, maybe 500, something like that. Basically, we're expecting to move up from here for tomorrow, and we'll see in tomorrow's analysis what point we reach. Will this area be broken, or will we head back toward liquidity around 100,000? we'll be looking at this more closely. Thank you. And I hope, once again, that this has been helpful for you.